Kevin Costner's marriage came to a close in 2023, ending a partnership that had lasted nearly 2 decades. Yet the aftermath unfolded faster and more painfully than anyone expected. Less than a year later, his former wife announced her engagement to a man from Costner's own inner circle, a friend. The revelation struck with a quiet brutality, reopening old wounds and forcing long-buried truths back into the light. For much of his life, Costner's private world had been anything but simple. There were discreet affairs, a son he initially refused to acknowledge, and relationships that fueled whispers across Hollywood for years. From early rumors during Bull Durham to a highly public paternity battle, the man behind the leading roles carried a personal history far messier than the characters he portrayed. Now, at 70, he has entered a new chapter with someone new at his side. But the question lingers: can a man shaped by decades of emotional damage truly rewrite his own pattern? To understand that question, the story must begin much earlier. Kevin Michael Costner was born on January 18, 1955, in Linwood, California, into a household already marked by loss. He was the youngest of 3 sons, but the middle child, Mark Douglas, had died just days after birth 2 years earlier. That absence never faded. It lived in the silences of the home, in the moments that felt heavier than they should have. Kevin sensed it in the way his father tightened his jaw when faced with small frustrations, in the quiet emotional weight that lingered beneath everyday life. His father worked long, exhausting hours as an electrician for Southern California Edison, and the job rarely allowed the family to stay in one place for long. Every few years brought another move, another unfamiliar town. For Kevin, it meant constantly starting over. New schools, new faces, friendships that never had time to settle. So he learned to retreat inward, building a private inner world fueled by imagination, one that could travel with him wherever the family landed. When the Costners moved to Compton in the 1960s, that sense of being different intensified. The neighborhood was in the midst of rapid change, transitioning from predominantly white earlier in the decade to a majority black community by the 1970s. Kevin often found himself the only white student in his classroom, sometimes in his entire grade. It made him aware of race, identity, and belonging long before he had the language to fully understand them. His Baptist upbringing offered stability. Church became a refuge, a place where he felt anchored. He sang in the choir, found solace in music, and gravitated toward poetry and small creative spaces where he could express what he struggled to say aloud. The streets outside could be rough, tension never far away, but Kevin stayed close to his family and clung to the few things that made him feel alive. School became an outlet, though he didn't fully understand why at the time. At Cabrillo Middle School and later at M.T. Whitney and Villa Park High School, he immersed himself in sports. Football, baseball, basketball, he played them all. By the time he graduated, he stood just 5 feet 2 inches, but size never discouraged him. He ran harder, fought for every play, refused to fade into the background. He marched in the school band. He wrote poetry when the world felt too loud. He took piano and guitar lessons even when money was tight. And on school stages, he sang songs he had written himself. Those small performances sparked something, a quiet belief that he had something worth sharing. Years later, that same creative thread would resurface in his 1998 country album, Untold Truths. At the time, he didn't realize it, but these early acts of creation were teaching him how to turn emotion into something tangible. Money was always scarce in the Costner household. His father worked relentlessly. His mother contributed as a welfare worker. Even so, the family struggled through much of the 1960s. Kevin mowed lawns and took odd jobs to afford small comforts. And whenever a Western flickered onto the television, especially after seeing how the West was won at age 7, something stirred deep inside him. The men on screen felt larger than life, brave, honest, as if they carried truth in their eyes. It planted the idea that storytelling had the power to lift someone beyond the circumstances they were born into. Music kept pulling him back. He practiced piano and guitar wherever he could, at home, at church, during school events, anywhere someone might listen. He wrote songs shaped by the quiet storms inside him. That creative fire never went out. It later informed not just his music, but his work as an actor and director. Even as a child, Kevin sensed that art could carry a person through hardship, and he held on to that belief with the determination of someone clinging to a lifeline. By the time he finished high school in 1973, he had moved 3 times in a single decade. Each relocation took something from him, but it also taught him how to adapt. He graduated from Villa Park High School still undersized, but fiercely competitive. He played basketball, baseball, and football, even sharing the field with Dennis Burt, who would later reach professional baseball. Sports gave him structure. They gave him a way to channel emotion and endure constant upheaval. That same year, he enrolled at California State University, Fullerton. His plan was practical. He wanted security, a future that wouldn't disappoint his parents. Tuition was just $99 a semester, and a business major felt sensible, responsible. But life has a way of steering people toward who they truly are. In his senior year, around 1977, Kevin wandered into an acting class. One class became 5 nights a week. Soon, he was performing in campus productions like Invitation to March, A View from the Bridge, and Waiting for Lefty. Audiences noticed something in him, something raw, focused, and deeply serious. By 1978, he held a business degree in his hands, but his heart had already chosen another path. It was at the university that he met Cindy Silva in 1975. They were young, hopeful, and drawn to one another's steadiness. She believed in him. Still, when he began talking seriously about acting, uncertainty crept in. They were building a life from nothing, and dreams rarely align neatly with practical plans. Their relationship carried both tenderness and tension, shaping Kevin long before fame ever entered the picture. Everything changed in 1978, shortly after Kevin and Cindy were married. On their flight home from a honeymoon in Puerto Vallarta, Kevin noticed a familiar figure seated a few rows away, Richard Burton. The legendary actor had purchased surrounding seats to ensure privacy. But Kevin, unable to ignore the moment, stood up and walked toward him. Costner told Burton he was thinking about acting, but fear was holding him back. Burton listened without interruption. Then he offered a single piece of advice, delivered plainly, without drama. If you want to be an actor, go all the way. Don't look back. The words landed with unexpected weight. For Kevin, it felt less like encouragement and more like confirmation of something he had already known but hadn't dared to accept. That moment settled deep inside him. It pushed him to join the actor's studio and finally commit to the path he had been circling for years, unsure whether to step fully onto it. Hollywood, however, offered no easy welcome. After graduating in 1978, Kevin moved to Los Angeles and took whatever work he could find. He worked backstage at the Triple Theater. He auditioned relentlessly for commercials. He stacked rejection letters, more than 100 of them. Each no tested his resolve, but he kept showing up. Long before anyone knew his name, the years were marked by doubt, financial strain, and the constant question of whether persistence alone would ever be enough. His earliest film work only deepened that uncertainty. Malibu Hot Summer, shot in 1974, but not released until 1986, placed Kevin in a low-budget surf comedy that later made him cringe. He played a ranch hand named John Logan, navigating scenes that felt awkward and exploitative. The producers dismissed his acting while praising his appearance, a combination that left him questioning his instincts. Years later, Kevin openly regretted the role, but it taught him something valuable, what he never wanted to become. In 1982, he appeared briefly in Rumble Fish, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. His role went uncredited. The film, shot between July and September of that year, featured a cast of rising talent, including Tom Cruise. Despite the pedigree, it earned only $1.8 million against a $12 million budget. The disappointment rippled outward. For many of the young actors involved, the aftermath meant scrambling for work. Kevin bounced between couches, picked up odd jobs, and learned a hard truth. Working with a legendary director did not guarantee stability or even survival in Hollywood. Then came the big chill in 1983. Kevin played Alex, the character whose death binds the story together. He filmed multiple flashback scenes meant to appear throughout the movie. But after reshoots, the director decided they didn't work. One by one, the scenes were cut. When the film premiered, only Kevin's presence remained, in the form of a silent body in a coffin. The loss was devastating. Writer-director Lawrence Kasdan felt the sting of that decision deeply, and years later, he made amends by casting Kevin in Silverado. Before that opportunity arrived, Kevin starred in The Gunrunner in 1983. The film sat unreleased for years, only airing later once Kevin had become famous. Critics dismissed it as slow and forgettable. At the time, it did little to help his career. He waited tables, took temporary work, and endured audition after audition, hoping for a role that felt real, something that could finally shift his momentum. That shift came in 1985 with Silverado. Kevin played Jake, a fast-drawing gunslinger with an easy charm that made audiences stop and pay attention. The film earned $32 million on a $26 million budget. Not a blockbuster, but enough to matter. Critics took notice. They saw something authentic in him, something grounded and unpolished. After years of rejection and incremental progress, Silverado became the foothold he had been fighting for. In 1987, Kevin stepped into the role of Elliot Ness in The Untouchables, sensing that something larger might be within reach. Even then, nothing came easily. Paramount offered him $800,000 for the role. He hesitated. He had just earned $750,000 for No Way Out, and the studio expected quick agreement. But Kevin pushed back. He believed in the story. He believed his place in it carried weight. After tense negotiations, he walked away with just over $1 million, an enormous leap for an actor who still wasn't considered a guaranteed draw. When the film opened, it exploded. The Untouchables earned $152 million worldwide on a $25 million budget. Kevin's restrained, steady portrayal of Ness stood firm alongside Robert De Niro's explosive Al Capone and Sean Connery's hardened Malone. His quiet authority earned him a Golden Globe nomination and elevated his standing overnight. Hollywood began to look at him differently. Doors that once seemed distant now opened with intention. A year later, Bull Durham shifted his image yet again. As Crash Davis, a weary minor league catcher mentoring a reckless rookie played by Tim Robbins, Kevin found a role that fit him naturally. The film earned $53 million and transformed him into a romantic lead. Audiences responded to his understated delivery, his relaxed confidence, and the way he shared the screen with Susan Sarandon in scenes that felt intimate, flawed, and real. Soon, rumors followed. Whispers spread that their on-screen chemistry had crossed into real life. They were spotted together off-set, and tabloids inflated every glance into speculation. Kevin never confirmed the stories, but the rumors refused to fade. The film became a cultural touchstone, and the noise surrounding it lingered long after production ended. In 1989, Field of Dreams revealed a different side of him. As Ray Kinsella, Kevin brought a gentleness that surprised audiences. One of the film's most iconic lines, the invitation to build a field, was never written in the script. Kevin reached for it in the moment, drawing from memories he rarely spoke about. The film opened modestly, earning just over $5 million in 22 theaters. But word spread quietly, one conversation at a time, until it reached $84.5 million worldwide. Viewers sat in dark theaters, listening to that calm voice in the cornfield, and felt something deeply personal awaken inside them. His performance turned a simple story into modern myth. With his fame accelerating, every decision carried weight. That was when he stunned Hollywood by turning down Pretty Woman, a role that would later make Richard Gere an icon. Kevin walked away, unwilling to be confined to a single image. Instead, he chose Revenge in 1990, a darker, riskier story about a Navy pilot caught in a destructive love triangle. Critics noticed echoes of his own life in the performance and wondered how much of himself he was revealing. Kevin gravitated toward complex material, even when it carried more risk than reward. But as his career soared, old rumors resurfaced. The whispers tied to Bull Durham returned, growing louder, following him into this new phase of success, reminding him that fame amplifies everything, including the parts of a life meant to stay private. The tabloids moved quickly, printing one story after another, insisting he had crossed a line with a co-star. Kevin denied it again and again. Nothing was ever proven, but denial did little to stop the damage. The speculation seeped into his private life, creating pressure that no red carpet could soften. His marriage to Cindy Costner began to absorb the weight of those headlines, the strain accumulating quietly over time. Years later, when the relationship finally broke apart, it became clear how deeply those rumors had cut. True or not, the stories followed him everywhere, reshaping how the public saw him and how his personal life began to fracture behind closed doors. Then came the project that would redefine everything. Dances with Wolves was already in trouble before the cameras rolled. Orion Pictures slashed the budget, and many expected the film to collapse under its own ambition. Instead of walking away, Kevin took a gamble that few actors at his level would dare. He invested $3 million of his own money, convinced the story mattered even if no one else fully believed it. From July through November of 1989, the production stretched across 5 grueling months and 27 locations in South Dakota's open plains. Kevin wasn't just starring in the film. He was directing it, producing it, and helping shape the script, carrying the weight of the entire project on his shoulders. When filming wrapped, the final cost stood at $19 million. 2 years later, at the 63rd Academy Awards in 1991, the film stunned the industry. Dances with Wolves won 7 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director, an achievement reached by only a handful of westerns in cinema history. Kevin Costner had done what many doubted was possible. He proved he wasn't just a leading man, but a storyteller capable of guiding a vision from behind the camera. The film also marked a deliberate shift in how westerns portrayed Native American communities. Kevin pushed for cultural respect at every stage of production. Lakota Sioux consultants were brought in. Tribal members were cast as actors and extras. He learned the Cheyenne language, practicing it daily so his performance would feel authentic. He paid tribal extras more than industry standards, believing their participation deserved real value. Filming stretched across the Badlands, the Black Hills, Spearfish Canyon, and the vast 50,000-acre Triple U Buffalo Ranch, home to more than 3,500 buffalo. Audiences noticed the difference. For once, a Western treated Native characters with dignity rather than stereotype. But success carried a cost. In 1990, Kevin turned down a staggering $40 million offer to make a sequel. The pressure had built too fast, too intensely. He was exhausted. Industry insiders whispered about burnout and depression, noting how the brutal shoot, marked by freezing winds, blizzards, and relentless days, had pushed him dangerously close to his limits. Production designer Jeffrey Beecroft later recalled how punishing the conditions were, draining everyone involved. Kevin himself admitted that the physical and emotional weight of the project stayed with him long after filming ended. Over time, as some of his later projects underperformed, including Horizon, the sequel quietly faded from studio conversations. It marked a turning point. Kevin began stepping away from large franchises, leaning instead towards stories that felt more personal and controlled. On the Oscar stage, he spoke openly about Native American rights and referenced his own Cherokee ancestry. To viewers, he appeared confident and composed. Behind the scenes, he was worn down, carrying exhaustion few could see. Years later, the film would be revisited in a different light. Dances with Wolves had not used intimacy coordinators, something Hollywood now considers essential. Kevin defended the decision at the time, arguing that authenticity mattered most. But co-star Mary McDonnell later said the absence of that support left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. In 2025, when lawsuits forced the industry to confront past on-set practices, the film was cited as an early example of why change had become necessary. Still, his fame only continued to rise. In 1991, he stepped straight into Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The film pulled in an astonishing $390 million worldwide on a $65 million budget. Bryan Adams's power ballad dominated UK charts for 16 weeks, carrying the movie's legacy far beyond theaters. Critics mocked Kevin's American accent, but audiences didn't care. They showed up in massive numbers. The shoot itself was chaotic. Production had just 10 weeks before winter arrived, and rival films were racing to beat them to release. Tension flared between Kevin and director Kevin Reynolds, especially during post-production, where Reynolds ultimately walked away over studio interference. The final cut showed its scars: abrupt edits, continuity errors, even a tongueless scribe suddenly speaking. Yet Alan Rickman's Sheriff of Nottingham stole the spotlight. Dissatisfied with the original dialogue, Rickman asked friends to help rewrite his lines, delivering a performance that won him a BAFTA. Kevin, meanwhile, took home a Razzie. The contrast was sharp, but box office numbers spoke louder than awards, and audiences kept coming. That same year, he took on JFK under director Oliver Stone. The film cost $40 million and earned $205 million worldwide, igniting fierce controversy. Critics accused it of promoting conspiracy theories. Kevin immersed himself in research, studying original files and documents. Some of what he uncovered disturbed him so deeply that he never spoke about it publicly. The film earned 8 Academy Award nominations and won 2. The debate around JFK became so intense it reached Congress, contributing to the passage of the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act. The law forced the release of classified documents by 2017 instead of 2029. Kevin's 15-minute courtroom monologue was dissected endlessly, praised by supporters, criticized by skeptics, and argued over for years. In 1994, he returned to the Western genre with Wyatt Earp. The film ran 3 hours and was built with meticulous historical care. Its $63 million budget dwarfed that of Tombstone, released around the same time. But while Tombstone found commercial success, Wyatt Earp earned only $56 million. Critics called it slow. Still, historians praised its accuracy, especially the famous OK Corral gunfight, noting that the gunmen stood just 15 feet apart, far closer than most films dare to show. Kevin had spent months preparing, pouring himself into every detail. Yet the film quietly slipped through the cracks. Then came the steepest fall. The Postman arrived in 1997 with an $80 million budget and returned just $27 million worldwide. Titanic had opened a week earlier and consumed nearly all available audiences. Critics were merciless. The film scored a 17% rating and was labeled self-serious and misguided. It earned 5 Razzie nominations. Almost overnight, the man once seen as untouchable was facing open skepticism. His standing in Hollywood took a real blow. Kevin Costner had never been comfortable standing still. So when he resurfaced in 2007, fronting a band called Modern West, many assumed it was just another celebrity side project, another reinvention from a man who refused to slow down. But he kept moving forward anyway. When Untold Truths was released on November 11, 2008, it became clear this wasn't a side project or a vanity detour. This was something he needed to do. Kevin stood on stage with a guitar, sang lead vocals, and co-wrote half the album. One song in particular, 90 Miles an Hour, grew out of long solitary days on his Montana ranch, and he poured himself into it with an honesty that surprised even longtime skeptics. The album climbed to number 61 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart and reached number 35 on the Top Heatseekers chart. Soon, he was standing on stage at Cheyenne Frontier Days, staring out at a crowd of nearly 100,000 people, a look of quiet disbelief crossing his face as critics finally conceded that he wasn't pretending. Songs like Superman 14 and Long Hot Night stayed in rotation, and listeners responded to the lived-in stories threaded through his lyrics. For a brief moment, it seemed Kevin Costner had uncovered another version of himself, one that felt grounded and real. But 2008 brought more than music. It brought another dream and another storm. That year, Kevin invested $3 million of his own money into Tatanka, a 35-acre cultural center in South Dakota meant to honor Native American history and the legacy of the bison. The site included a museum, a visitor center, and life-size scenes depicting Lakota hunters and buffalo. From the moment construction began, criticism followed. He was in the middle of a costly divorce, and many dismissed the project as nothing more than a vanity gesture. Kevin insisted it wasn't. He said he wanted people to understand what existed long before modern America. The backlash only intensified when artist Peggy Detmers accused him of violating their agreement. What followed was a prolonged legal battle that turned Tatanka into a symbol of conflict rather than preservation. The case dragged on for years, finally reaching resolution in 2023 when the South Dakota Supreme Court ruled in his favor. By then, the project had come to represent something larger, how difficult it could be to hold on to meaning while public opinion tries to tear it apart. That same year, Kevin released Swing Vote, which premiered on August 1, 2008. He played Bud Johnson, an alcoholic, struggling father whose single vote determines the outcome of a U.S. presidential election. The role stirred something deeply personal. Kevin carried unresolved regrets about his own relationship with his father, and the performance reflected that quiet pain. When the film's financing fell apart, he stepped in again, covering more than $16 million himself to keep it alive. The film earned $16.3 million at the box office and received praise from Roger Ebert, who recognized the creative risk behind it. Others noted a raw vulnerability in Kevin's performance that felt closer to confession than acting. Through all of this, he kept touring with Modern West, reading scripts between shows, and trying to keep the different parts of his life from collapsing into one another. Then came Turn It On. Released in December 2010 and fully promoted in 2012, the album felt louder, freer, and more confident. Working with Vince Gill and Sarah Beck, Kevin pushed Modern West deeper into the roots rock sound they were chasing. But before the album could fully find its footing, disaster struck. In 2010, the band's tour bus crashed in Europe. Kevin escaped with minor injuries, but the shock lingered. It forced him to slow down, to think about his family, and to confront how relentlessly fast he had been moving. Once he recovered, he returned to the road, touring across Europe and proving that Modern West wasn't something he did between films. It was another path he took seriously. In 2012, he committed to an even bigger idea, a $20 million eco-resort project in Montenegro known as Lake Kostner. The vision was to blend luxury with sustainability, combining environmental responsibility with economic development. Kevin believed deeply in conservation, and the project felt like a chance to merge values with ambition. But soon, local officials and environmental groups accused the development of violating ecological regulations. Lawsuits followed. Headlines framed it as yet another bold Costner gamble courting controversy. This time, he didn't walk away. He stayed with the project, learning firsthand how tangled global business could become and how ideals rarely survive untouched once money and politics enter the room. Then, in 2018, Yellowstone changed everything. Kevin stepped into the role of John Dutton, earning $500,000 per episode in the early seasons. By season 5, he renegotiated his contract to $1.3 million per episode, taking home $18.2 million for just 14 episodes. His salary eclipsed the combined pay of the entire season 1 cast. The show surged in popularity, drawing more than 20 million viewers by 2023, and for a while, it felt like Kevin had reached a late career peak, powerful, respected, and firmly back at the center of American storytelling. But another long-held vision was waiting. In 2023, Kevin directed and financed Horizon, an American saga, a Civil War Western planned as a multi-part epic. The project was shot over 9 months in Utah, with a budget estimated between $50 and $100 million. Kevin personally contributed $38 million. The first chapter premiered to muted expectations, opening with just $1 million at the box office. It failed to crack the top 30 films of 2024. Lawsuits followed. Accusations of financial mismanagement, blown budgets, and hostile behavior began circulating. Studio insiders blamed delays on Kevin's leadership. Fans who wanted the project to succeed watched as it struggled under its own ambition. At the same time, tensions erupted behind the scenes of Yellowstone. In 2023, Kevin clashed with creator Taylor Sheridan over script delays and creative control. Kevin wanted approval over all scripts for the upcoming season. Paramount refused. Negotiations broke down. Rumors of diva behavior and blacklisting spread quickly. Kevin countered that he had sacrificed film promotions to honor his commitment to the show. By 2024, his departure was official. He walked away with unresolved resentment and the sense that something meaningful had slipped through his hands. The controversy didn't end there. In 2024, stunt performer Devin LaBella filed a lawsuit tied to Horizon, Chapter 2 reshoots. She alleged Kevin directed an unscripted and violent rape scene without consent and without an intimacy coordinator, seeking $10 million in damages. Kevin denied the accusations, calling them false and insisting all scenes were rehearsed and approved. The case carried into 2025, casting a long and growing shadow. More reports surfaced when claims emerged that Kevin had lunged at actor Wes Bentley during a tense Yellowstone scene in 2024. Witnesses described a heated argument that escalated into shoving, forcing production to halt. Kelly Riley was reportedly shaken. Bentley later remarked that he had signed on to a Taylor Sheridan project, not a Kevin Costner production. It became another dark mark on Kevin's final season with the show. And through all of this public turmoil, his personal life continued to evolve. Kevin Costner married Cindy Silva in 1978. Together, they built a family, welcoming Annie in 1984, Lily in 1986, and Joe in 1987, long before fame, fortune, and controversy began pulling at every seam of the life they had tried to hold together. He once said she embodied everything he admired in women. But by 1994, the marriage he had built with Cindy Silva unraveled. Stories surfaced alleging an affair with Bridget Rooney during the filming of Waterworld, and the separation quickly became public spectacle. The divorce was finalized with an $80 million settlement, one of the largest Hollywood had seen at the time. Kevin later admitted the split rattled his sense of stability and shook his faith in permanence. It became a defining rupture, setting the pattern for the emotional complexity that would follow him into future relationships. 2 years later, another storm arrived. In 1996, Bridget Rooney gave birth to a son named Liam. Kevin denied paternity for years, resisting public pressure until a court ordered a DNA test in 2002. The results confirmed Liam was his child. Kevin established a trust fund and maintained occasional contact, but the relationship never settled into something consistent or close. Rumors spread about an Aspen ranch being used as hush money. Reporters chased every angle, every document, every silence. The story followed him relentlessly, becoming another unresolved chapter that clung to his name. Time passed, and eventually, someone new entered his life. Kevin met Christine Baumgartner around the year 2000. They dated quietly, separated in 2003, reconciled, and married in 2004. Together, they built what appeared to be a steadier life. Their son Caden was born in 2007, followed by Hayes in 2009 and Grace in 2010. For years, the relationship seemed grounded, protected from the chaos that had defined his earlier personal history. That calm ended in May 2023, when Christine filed for divorce, listing April 11th as their separation date. Court documents revealed questions surrounding alleged affairs. Kevin responded by pointing to financial disputes, including claims that Christine had spent between $180,000 and $850,000 on cosmetic procedures. The proceedings were tense and highly public. By September 2023, the settlement was finalized. Kevin was ordered to pay $63,209 per month in child support. He appealed the ruling, but the decision stood. The divorce was officially finalized on February 16, 2024. Less than a year later, the shock landed. On January 26, 2025, Christine became engaged to Josh Connor, a man who had once been Kevin's friend. The proposal took place on a beach in Santa Barbara. Sources close to the couple said the relationship had been quietly developing for over a year. For Kevin, the news felt like a sudden betrayal. Those close to him said he was blindsided. Others suggested he had sensed something was wrong even before the marriage ended. Either way, the pain struck deeply, echoing older wounds he thought he had already survived. As the fallout spread, new rumors followed. Kevin was linked to Jewel, and later to Jennifer Lopez. The Lopez speculation intensified after the two were seen in Aspen during the summer of 2024, with tabloids quickly declaring a romance. Insiders claimed the narrative was exaggerated, possibly a distraction from larger controversies. Kevin shut the stories down directly, stating that he and Jewel were friends and had never dated. He made it clear he wasn't chasing Hollywood relationships. He preferred quieter connections, away from spectacle. By July 2025, something different entered his life. Her name was Kelly Noonan-Gores. She was 46, a wellness advocate known for her 2017 documentary Heal, and recently divorced from billionaire Alec Gores. They met through mutual friends in Aspen. Kevin was 70. Both were coming out of years marked by strain and disappointment. Their conversations were slow and thoughtful, about health, meaning, and the unexpected fractures divorce leaves behind. She lived in Manhattan Beach. He lived in Carpinteria. Even so, they found ways to see each other often, especially in Aspen, where their paths naturally crossed. Kevin appreciated her calm presence. Kelly admired his thoughtfulness. There was no rush, no public performance. When tabloids claimed in September 2025 that Kevin had publicly announced the relationship at a Heal screening, friends quickly dismissed it. That wasn't how it unfolded. There was no grand reveal. They kept things private, choosing distance from flashing cameras and speculation. By December 2025, their lives began to blend quietly. Kelly's daughter, Riley, joined outings with Kevin and his children, who were now grown enough to see him not just as a father, but as a man trying to rebuild. People close to him said the relationship brought something gentle back into his world after years of turbulence. Still, concerns lingered. Some remembered past stories, his temper, the on-set confrontations, the allegations that had never fully faded. They wondered whether this new chapter could truly last. Yet those closest to him kept returning to the same observation. Kelly brought optimism. She gave him room to breathe again. And after everything Kevin Costner had endured, that sense of quiet steadiness mattered more than anyone on the outside could ever fully understand.